Hi, folks. I'm Bob Grimard of Grimard Financial. I'm here to talk to you about retirement and pre-retirement. I'm going to give you a wide brushstroke of information. This information is very important. This is what we call a new normal, right? We learned that in COVID, where we get this information by video or otherwise. We internalize it, we understand it, and then we ask questions and talk about what really is important to us. So I have to commend you for watching this and getting this information, first of all, because what has taken us to this point will not take us into the future. We know that. We're going to talk a lot about how we got here and where we're going. So change is very tough, but it's essential for us to make it through retirement. The most important equation in retirement is where taxes will be in retirement. Many experts, including myself, feel the taxes are going to have to really be dramatically increased. And this is purely a math problem. We're spending more money than what we're taking in. And if you think back during COVID, the amount of money that we spent, now I'm not telling you we shouldn't have spent that money, but the amount of money that we spent on subsidies and payments through the roof, it really increased our debt. Now we're spending money and have spent money on Ukraine. Now, again, I'm not telling you this is the wrong thing. The point is we can only kick the can down just for so long until taxes will have to be raised. I want you to think of this. Picture your nest egg. Picture 25% of your nest egg currently going to taxes. What does that look like? Now, project yourself into the future and look at 50% of your nest egg going to taxes. How does that feel? So we're going to talk about a lot of things today to help eliminate that risk. Make us feel a lot better about paying our taxes, right? We've been in this position before. In fact, in 1945, our marginal tax rate was 94%. And I'm going to say that again because this is really important. In 1945, our tax rate was 94%, our marginal tax rate. Why was that? Because we just come out of the war. Everybody knows that. But why? We were in debt. And what did they do? They raised taxes. They raised taxes across the board, including the marginal tax rate. Now, let me ask you this question. Do you think they went to each citizen and said, hey, is it okay if we raise taxes? No, it was done with the stroke of a pen. So why do we think that won't happen again? We are in a great amount of debt, just like we were then. So with the stroke of a pen, they have the ability to raise our taxes. So let's look back not so far. 1945 was a long way. Look at the decade of the 70s. The decade of the 70s, our marginal tax rate was 70%. Let's talk about the 60s. Our lowest tax bracket was at 20%. 20%. So the minute you started paying taxes, the earliest tax bracket or the lowest was 20%. Today, it's 10%. So in the 60s, it was double. So do you think it's not a possibility that they raise today's 10% opening tax bracket to 20% or our 12% to 24%? You know, I liken this to at Christmas time when we go out and spend money on presents, spend and spend and spend. And what happens in January? The bill comes due. And you say, oh my goodness, look how much money I spent. So we've been doing this for a long time government-wise. We've been spending and spending, and we can only kick the can down the road for a short period of time, or really it's coming to a close where we've got to deal with this. Let's talk about where the government spends our tax money. I'm going to give you a little bit of history lesson. Social Security started in 1935. It was the linchpin of the New Deal, Roosevelt, right? So back then, you had to be 65 years old to take Social Security. The average lifespan was 63. If you actually made it to 65, the average time on Social Security, or the most time, was really 2 years, 67. So let me run through those numbers again. 65, lifespan 63. If you get on it, you made it for 2 years, passed away at 67. This was a plan made to last forever. It was solvent. We're not going to talk about where the money came from, but where the money went. But it was solvent when it was put together. There was 42 people putting in for every one person taking out. That's of utmost importance. Let's talk about where we are today. To take Social Security, it can take it as low as 62 years old. Now, granted, you take a 25% discount, but there's a lot of people taking Social Security at 62. So that's the average lifespan. We said back then it was 63, but today, if you look at what Social Security reported a couple of years ago before COVID, they said that the average person, if you've made it to 60, the average person is going to go to 88 years old, and a huge percentage of those are going to go into their 90s. That's a far cry from where this was originally put together. So if you think about 63 to 88, that's huge. Today, there's 4 people putting in for every 1 person taking out. Wow, 4 to 1. And they say in the next 10 years, we're going to see it go to 3 to 1. So where is Social Security payments going to come from? Where is that going to come from? They've got to raise taxes. Let's now talk a little bit about the M&Ms, Medicare and Medicaid. Medicare, you have to be 65 years old to get on it. Okay? So the issue here is there are 10,000 baby boomers filing for Medicare per day. And I'm going to say that again because it's staggering. 10,000 baby boomers filing for Medicare per day. Now, if I ever say something that you're not 100% sure of, I want you to Google it. Google it's a word today, right? You look up in the dictionary, Google it. So you don't think that 10,000 is accurate? I want you to Google it. Where is that money going to come from? Where are we going to pay? And where is that money going to come from? And how are we going to pay for that Medicare? Social Security is considered the cornerstone of our retirement. So no one's going to take that away. There's not going to be a politician that's going to say, we're going to wipe out Social Security. They'd never be in office again. It would be the last time they hold office. It may change. So they are going to raise taxes to go ahead and pay for this. Now, what you have to know, too, is they've created a tax scheme, or sneaky tax, as I call it, on Social Security. I think it's very important that you know, depending on how much money you make from your IRAs, you can pay taxes on your Social Security. I have a big question for everyone. If there was something costing you money today, when would you want to know? It's a no-brainer, right? You want to know right now. I call that money falling through the cracks. Now, as I told you earlier, you can Google things. So you can Google money falling through the cracks, and this is what it's going to tell you. It's going to tell you that we do not like to admit our financial mistakes. Well, most people don't. So this is what their list of falling through the cracks, and then we're going to give you my own. They say that we sign up for the gym. We go for 2 months and then never go back. But we keep paying, right? Someone asks you going to the gym? Oh, yeah, I'm going back. And never. And so, because you've got to go down there, you got to write a letter, you got to request. So we keep paying. That's money falling through the cracks. The other thing that we do, or we don't do, is we don't shop for our homeowners insurance and our car insurance. You know, we got a guy, and we use him, and we never take him to task to find out if he's really doing his job, shopping like he should, giving us the best deal. I actually had a client at a seminar that I went through this, and he went home, and he shopped his auto insurance, he bundled it, and found out that he saved $1,000 a year. That's a lot of money. That is money falling through the cracks. It's money he can recapture and use for retirement or enjoyment or whatever it is. So let me tell you my list of money falling through the cracks. My number one pet peeve is overfunding your 401k. And a lot of people look at me a little sideways when I say that, but this is what I mean. We'll say that you are getting a match of 4%. Granted, take the match, take the free money. But anything above that, do not put in your 401k. Put it in something that's going to pay you tax-free. We're going to talk a lot about taxes today, but tax-free is utmost importance. So you take that extra money, pay the tax today. Today, our taxes are in their lowest rate ever. We're in the lowest tax environment ever that we'll ever see. Pay the tax today and put it into something that's going to pay you tax-free. What we're doing is we're filling our 401ks with money, a huge bucket of money later on for the government to tax. So if you really believe taxes are going up, why wouldn't you pay them today and have that money be tax-free? You know, this dates all the way back to when you got hired and you went to HR And you said, they said, we got this thing called the 401k. We didn't even know what it was. We didn't know what we were doing. I said, what are you doing? What should I do? We didn't know. We put 0.5% in. And as we got older, we had more money. And we put more and more money into it, probably putting 10, 12, 15%. It's great to save the money. Just don't do it that way because you're going to get into the tax trap. Okay, so let me talk to you a little bit about money falling through the cracks on some prior clients. We had a gentleman who retired. He took with him a $750,000 term life policy. He was thrilled about it. He never had to go through physicals. He just got to keep it. It renewed and renewed it. And so when I asked him, I said, has the price gone up? The premium, has it gone up? And he said, no. Of course, we all know that term life premium goes up as we get older. So when he said no, something clicked in my mind that it wasn't right. So I asked him to bring the policy. And observing the policy, we found out that he had a reducing face value life insurance. Every year he paid, the face value went down to keep the price the same, right? So he was paying what I thought was an exorbitant amount for $750,000, but when we found out he really had $335,000, paying what I thought was an exorbitant amount for $750,000, well, that didn't match. He didn't know that. So that is money falling through the cracks. We took those funds, put it somewhere where it worked much better for them. Does that make sense? Okay, let's talk about variable annuities. Variable annuities have a lot of fees in them, right? They're okay for a younger person. We'll talk about that again. But variable annuities have fees. In fact, at one seminar, a gentleman in the back raised his hand and said, Bob, I have no fees. And I said, sir, that's impossible. Every variable. He says, I have no fees. I said, well, this is not the forum to talk about that. So he brought his policy in and I did a policy review. Now, granted, this may not be your situation, but he had $66,000 a year in fees. I'm going to say that again, $66,000 a year in fees. Now, he was wealthy. He had $1.5 million in there. He was paying a little bit over 4% fees. He didn't even know because it doesn't show up on his statement. That leads into my next statement. Most people do not know what questions to ask. They don't know about fees. They don't know about reducing face values. It's something that we're not taught. So this is one of the things that we talk about when we look at your financial picture. We look for money falling through the cracks. One more example. Older folks had a whole life policy. Each had a whole life policy with a face value of $90,000. Now, they had already paid $80,000 into that policy. $80,000 for a $90,000 life insurance. Now, do you think that's a good investment? Of course not. So this is what we did. We had them cash that whole life policy out. They each got $80,000. They put it together, and now they're enjoying their retirement. So that's one of the things that we do is really find that money falling through the cracks and reset it so it's making more money and making your retirement better. Should we be safer with our money as we get older? The answer to that is unequivocally yes. Yes, because our timeline for having that money to come back and be there when we're going to use it has gotten shorter. Think about what happened in 2001, 2002. We had that crash. It didn't really affect us too much because we knew we had some time for it to recover. 2008, 2009, a recession, right? The Great Recession is what they call it. It took 5 years for our money to come back. I will talk about that a little bit later in the video. But truth be told, a lot of people who were getting ready to retire or had retired either had to stay at work or had to get part-time jobs or new employment because most of their 401k money or half was eaten up. So they didn't have time for it to come back. So here we are after years of a bull market. The question is on the next recession, the next downturn, do we want to wait 5 to 7 years to use our money? The answer to that is no. Let me tell you a little story about my father-in-law, Frank. My wife hates it when I share this story, but Frank was living in Tennessee, lives with us now. It's a story for another time. But he had $97,000 in his account. And he told me, Bobby, when it hits 100, I'm going to sell it. I said, great, Frank. I watched his account. I put it in the corner of my computer and saw it climb to 107. And I called him. And I said, Frank, it's time to sell 107. Yeah, I got it. Are you going to sell? Yes. That was in the spring. Came up for Christmas. And I said, hey, congratulations. You did really, really well with that account, right? He said, well, not so well. I said, what happened? I didn't sell it. Well, he had been in oil and gas. Remember what happened to oil and gas about 4 or 5 years ago, 6 years ago? It crashed, lost all the money quickly. So his account after that went down to $67,000. That's where he cashed it out. And when I asked him, why did you do that, Frank? Why did you wait? He said, well, I was only 3,000 from 110. I wanted to see it hit 110. So there you go. He will never see his money back. That's a perfect example of why we have to be more careful, because he would never see that money come back. And now he sold it at a loss. This just instills two beliefs and two sayings that I've always said. There's only two things that drive the market: fear and greed. And really, that is what happened to Frank. It happens to so many of us. It's time to take some money off the table. It's time to not have those losses. I will tell you this. In that time of 2008, 2009, not one client lost 1 penny that works with us. I want to say that again. Not one client lost 1 penny. Most of our clients made 3 to 6% during that period. So that's why when I talk about safe, I talk about being not safe and boring, but being able to make money with our money. Let's talk about the 3 fears. And really, there should be a fourth. I will add a fourth come the end. But the 3 fears of most retirees and pre-retirees. Number 1 is running out of money. The interesting part of this is no matter how much money the client has sitting across the desk from me, they always have that fear of running out of money. They feel that it's taken so long and so hard to get there that they don't run out of money. It's really an instinctual feeling. And it's something that we have to deal with on a daily basis. And I am going to do a video in the future about a test case or an actual case study that we did with that. So please stay tuned for that. So running out of money is number 1. Number 2, where a tax is going to be in retirement. It used to be long-term care. Taxes has actually jumped over that. Number 3, long-term care. Am I going to need a nursing home? Are they going to take my money? What is that going to look like? And you know, why don't we have long-term care? It's pretty simple. The cost. The cost for us as we get older is through the roof. The real rub for me is you could pay for long-term care, pay and pay and pay, step off the curb, get hit by a bus of the Greyhound variety, and no one gets a penny. I think that's an issue. If we put that money in, and someone were to get it in a sort of a death benefit or something on that idea, it might be a little bit different. Okay, the 4th fear I want to add into this is the sequence of returns. Now, it seems like no one really talks about this, but this is one of the largest fears for me as a financial advisor for the client, because it looks like this. Now, let's say that you have $500,000 in your retirement account. If you have more, picture more. If you have less, picture less. But we're going to use this as an example. You have $500,000 in your retirement account. Now, you're using the 4% rule. The 4% rule says that you can take 4% of your qualified accounts, 401ks, 403bs, the like, IRAs, anything you haven't paid taxes on. 4% out without taking without running out of money. Now, again, I'm going to do a video on that as well, so please stay tuned for that. It's really educational. So 4%. So 4% of $500,000 is $20,000. See, the last 10 years, you're taking your $20,000 out, and it's working fine. The $500,000 staying intact. Well, what happens? 2008, 2009 hits. That $500,000 now goes down to $300,000. Now, you're taking your Social Security, his Social Security, her Social Security, maybe a small pension, but you need that $20,000 to live. So you have a choice. The choice is you can continue to take the $20,000, but now it's out of $300,000. 5 years. Remember we said it took 5 years for that money to come back, or 6 years. So that means you are going to run down that $300,000, that $20,000 on a chunk, and maybe run out of money. Or change lifestyles. Who wants to work all their life and change lifestyles? I know I don't. So this is why when we talk about this sequence of returns, it's the sequence. when the market drops and you need to continue to take money out. That should be your fourth fear. You need to write this down. You need to make a checkbox and tell me if you check these 4 things off. Am I all set? Do I have an income stream for life? Am I going to run out of money? Yes or no? Do I have some tax-free retirement in there? Is that taxes box checked? Do I have a product that has long-term care in it, or do I have long-term care? Check that box if you have it. Now, do I have safe money? If the market crashes or something goes crazy with the country, am I going to continue to get that money and not have to worry about running down the money that I've put aside? Check that box. If you don't have those boxes checked off, you've got to look at it. You've got to have a retirement plan. Maybe your retirement plan is not complete. You really need to check with us or a financial planner and make sure that those check boxes are complete. So what do we do? When we call our financial advisor or our stockbroker, we say, hey, I want to diversify. I'm afraid of running out of money. What do? They put you in mutual funds, stocks, and bonds. Now, we know bonds don't pay a lot of money, which we're going to talk about. So that's not, in my opinion, true diversification. The next portion we're going to talk about is true diversification, safety, and taxes. This is, again, going to be of utmost importance. So please have a pencil and a paper. Take some notes here. Talk to you about that in a minute. This portion of the video is going to talk about diversification and principal protection. I've broken it down into 3 buckets: variable, safe, and tax-free. Now, I want to say this before I get started. I am not an advocate of just one bucket unless that it happens to be your risk tolerance. I'm just saying that each part of your funds have to be split up into these 3 buckets. If you're all in one, most people in a variable, then it's not true diversification. So let's look what's in the variable bucket. Stocks, 401ks, 457s, 403s, IRAs. Why is our money there? Because of the great increase we could have. Consequently, 2008, 2009, what do we see? A great decrease. I could actually call this bucket risk if I wanted to. So mutual funds, put mutual funds in there as well. What else is in that bucket are variable annuities. Now, I touched base a little bit about that in the beginning. Variable annuities work like this. You give the insurance company your money with a promise of an income stream later on down the road. The hiccup with that is variable annuities, when they take that money, they invest it in mutual funds. And what do we say mutual funds can do? They can go up or they can go down. So if you think about retirement and you're in an account that can go down, that becomes a risk, right? Does that make sense? So I also mentioned the fees in variable annuities, and I used a huge number on that particular client, but I've sat with clients with variable annuities that are paying $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 in fees on $200,000. That's a lot of money. You know, you wonder, where is the money going? Why aren't we making money? A lot of the fees. It's really, in my opinion, kind of a young person's policy. The other annuity in there in the variable column is the immediate annuity. Immediate annuity works like this. You give the insurance company your money, and then you tell them how long you want them to distribute that money out. So give them $100,000, you want it for 10 years, they'll break it up, and every month, starting the next month, you'll get a paycheck, right? Here's what the problem is. Problem is if you pass away in the middle, generally there's no beneficiaries, the insurance company gets to keep the money. No fun, right? The other issue is, what happens if you do not die after 10 years and now you're out that money? That money is no longer there. And I say what happens if you die because, believe it or not, I have clients that have asked for this type of product that told me that they knew when they're going to pass away. All their brothers died by 62 or 72 or whatever the story was. I've never seen one pay out quite the way the client thought it was going to pay out. And that's why it's in that variable column. Each one of those items that I mentioned, those funds and risks, never seem to pay out quite the way we thought it would. Everything we just talked about is in the variable column for a reason. It's in the variable column for a reason because on January 1 to January 1, they are variable. They will could end in a very different position than when they started last January. This is why they're all in the variable column. It could actually be called risk. Let's talk about the safe column. In the safe column are CDs, money market, fixed annuities, fixed index annuities, savings account. Let's start with CDs. Everybody thinks CD, the name, is certificate of deposit. And it's really wrong. I have renamed it. It is taken off with a bullet. It's called the certificate of disappointment. The disappointment comes in January when you get your love letter from the bank that says, congratulations, you earned $8 on your CD, and now you got to pay taxes on it. Just a joke, obviously. I actually had a client with $1.6 million in the market. 2008, 2009 happened. She went down to $800,000. She took 8 checks of $100,000 and went through all different banks and put them in there because she was just absolutely afraid to lose her money. The real place for a CD is where you would keep your 6-month safety net. They say that we should have 6-month held in reserve. So if it's in CDs, that's fine. If you have more than 6 months in CDs, then that is money falling through the cracks. There are places that are just as safe that pays a heck of a lot more than a CD. Everybody knows what the money market is. It's a safe account, usually has a checking account attached to it, a checkbook. You can write checks on it. You don't make any money, but it's liquid. Again, if your 6 months is there, then that's fine. More than 6 months, money falling through the cracks. The next is a fixed annuity. Fixed annuity is like a CD on steroids. Basically, you get a higher percentage, lasts a little longer. You know exactly what you're going to get at the end of the term. So give your insurance company the money. At the end of that term, you know exactly what you're going to get. It definitely pays higher than a CD. You're not going to make a lot of money, but if your 6 months is there, perfect. Let's talk about a fixed indexed annuity. Fixed indexed annuity works like this. You give your insurance company the money with a promise of an income stream later on down the road. Now, if the market crashes, you will not lose a penny. That's important. You will never be worth less than what you started with. Also, as it goes up, when you're assigned or given your gains, you will never lose those gains. I'm going to show you this in a second. I'm going to put a chart up. Let's look at what happened in 2001, 2002. First of all, let's start on the blue line. That blue line is a fixed annuity. See how it just kind of goes up real slow? No variations. That's the fixed annuity. Averages a couple of percent per year. Wonderful. Put your 6 months there. That's great. The red line is the S&P 500. We chart the S&P 500 because there's 500 companies. If we charted the Dow Industrials, there's only 30 companies. So this gives us a better indication of where we are in the market. So 2001, 2002, 2001, I went up, crashed, then came back. So remember, people who were retiring at that point either had to go back to work, not retire, get part-time jobs. And then look what happened in 2007. It's up there. Market was high and then crashed in 2008. Now, look at 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013 was right about where it broke even. So you had to go from 2008 to 2013, which is 5 years of really no gains, just clawing back to where you started. And then you watch that proceed to go up and where we are today, right? So let's look at the green line. The green line is a fixed index annuity. So in 2007, 2008, you see how the line went straight and then it started to go up, followed the S&P 500. And then in 2010, the line went even, just like the S&P, and then went up. So if you think about what happened, you didn't have to lose all your money in 2008. People in this product stayed even. They had the same amount of money as they started, plus the interest gained. They didn't have to worry about clawing back. This is of utmost importance. The last thing you want to do is have to start over in a crash. Now, I want you to think about this. You have $100,000 in the market. The market crashes, that $100,000 goes down 50%. What do you have? $50,000. Okay, so it takes 3, 4, 5 years. Now the market goes up 50%. It's up total 50%. How much do you have? $75,000. When it goes up 50%, you only have $50,000. It's $75,000. So it takes 2 or 3 extra years just for you to break even. Now, the stockbrokers of the world get to say that the market's even, except you may or may not be even. That's huge. That's something that we have to eliminate, and that is part of that fixed index annuity. So the last item on this list is the savings account. Everybody knows what a savings account is, right? It's okay to have the money in the savings account. If it's more than 6 months, what is it? Money falling through the cracks. Okay, great. I'm not telling you all the money has to be into one of these buckets. I'm not an advocate for any one more than the other than what your risk tolerance is. It's just important for you to have funds in each bucket. Remember that variable bucket. If all your funds are there, it is truly not diversified. True diversification is having funds in each bucket. Okay, let's talk about my favorite, the tax-free. There are two things and two things only that are tax-free, 100% tax-free. One is a Roth. The other is a properly structured life insurance retirement plan. Now, that's a mouthful, and I will get to that. Everybody knows what a Roth is. You pay the taxes, put the money in the Roth, it grows tax-free. What's the problem? The problem is this. We can only put $7,000 a year, each year, into a Roth. So as we get older, it's hard to really get that bucket to grow. So what we've been doing with our clients, and we've done this mainstream, it's a mainstream activity, is to create a Roth conversion or do a Roth conversion. So we'll say that you have money in an IRA and you'd like to create that to be tax-free. So we wouldn't convert it into a Roth in one fell swoop. We would take it and maybe do it over 5 years or 10 years, not to create a huge bucket of tax right out of the gate. I hope that makes sense. So we would do it in steps, converting to a Roth. Therefore, from there on out, the money grows into a Roth. So the question is this: would you rather pay tax on the seed or the harvest? The 100,000 that you're going to convert, or the 400,000 that's going to grow into? That's a no-brainer. So a lot of times with Roth, we'll move it for an IRA into the safe bucket, so we know it's going to be there, and then convert over those 10 years. Hopefully that makes sense. Roth conversions are of utmost importance. In fact, if you go into the archives and you look at what all your senators and the people with a huge amount of money are doing, they're doing Roth conversions today. In fact, I have a gentleman with $1 million. He's converting $250,000 a year, and he's paying the taxes out of his pocket. Some people will pay the taxes out of the conversion, so you're not writing a check to the government. No one likes to do that. So Roth conversions are very, very important. Okay, let's talk about properly structured life insurance retirement plan. Now, again, that's a mouthful, but I want you to think of it like this. Normally, most people, when they bought life insurance or thought about life insurance, they thought about protecting their children or their wives or their spouses or their family against disaster when they were younger. And then they decide that they let it go and they don't have life insurance. Truth be told, 99% of term life does not pay out. So this is a permanent life insurance product. It never goes away. So remember what you did when you bought term life. You bought the highest amount of life insurance for the lowest amount of money. So what we're going to do today is turn the tables. We're going to buy the lowest amount of life insurance for the highest amount of money. Now, I know that sounds like an oxymoron. It sounds like a crazy idea, but think of it like this. And I'm going to give you this example. It's for example only. One person took me to the task on these numbers. It is strictly an example. Please get that. We'll say that we had 100,000 and we're going to move 10,000 a year into this product. So we're going to do it every year, 10,000 a year. And we'll say, as an example, the cost of insurance is 2,000 and we have 8,000 left over. So first year, 10,000, 8,000 in the bucket that's going to grow, 2,000 for the life insurance. You do that for 10 years. At the end of that 10 years, now we have a compounded interest bucket, 8,000 a year, all gaining interest, all tax-free. So we can do one of two things, or one of four things, actually. We can start taking that money out as an income stream. We can leave it in there and let it grow even bigger. We can use it for long-term care later on down the road without paying extra money for a long-term care policy. Long-term care will work like this. We'll say that you purchased $500,000 worth of life insurance. You can take out 2% per month. So 2% of $500,000 is $10,000 a month to pay for long-term care, and that money will last out about 4.5 years. It pays out tax-free. Remember, you put $100,000 in, got $500,000 death benefit or $500,000 worth of long-term care. We'll say that you don't use it for long-term care. You use it for legacy. You give the money to your kids. They get that money tax-free. This program is used by every senator and every congressman for a couple of reasons. They can put as much money in as they want per year. Remember what I said, Roth can only put $7,000 unless you do a Roth conversion. Roth conversions, you can do any amount. So you can put any amount in this per year. I have people putting in over $100,000 a year. I have people putting in $200 a month if they're young. This policy works for all ages, and it does multiple things. I want to run past it really quick again. Gives us a little bit of long-term care, a death benefit, will grow tax-free, and give us a tax-free income stream for life. So one of the best parts of this and a Roth is these incomes do not cause us to pay tax on our Social Security. So if you didn't know, you had to pay tax on your Social Security. This is a key point for you to remember. Write this down. Talk to us about the numbers that you can hit before you pay tax. This is a way to make sure that you live well and have tax-free income. So let's go back on the buckets that we talked about. Variable bucket. January to January will change. Can go dramatically up, dramatically down. Safe bucket. Never lose a penny. Talked about the fixed index annuity where you can make money as it goes up and never lose any money as it goes down. Utmost importance. Tax-free bucket. Money that you're never going to be taxed on. You pay the tax before it goes in and never pay tax again. Think about what I said about the harvest and the seed. Would you rather pay on the original $100,000 or $200,000 or the $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 that's going to lay out? It's of utmost importance that you have funds in each one of these buckets. Make sure you check your 4 check boxes. Long-term care, running out of money, sequence of returns, check, tax-free. If those buckets are not checked off, please talk to us. We're happy to put together some type of retirement plan. We'll do a spreadsheet. We'll look at your Social Security and give you the best guidance you'll ever get. What happens to you matters to us. Thank you for listening. Call us if you have any questions.